really fundamental question. How does the actual ground beneath our feet, the shape of the land itself, how does that define the way we live our lives?
This ancient verse, it really captures that deep, almost primal connection we have with the planet. And, this relationship, it goes way, way back to the very dawn of humanity.
See, the Earth's surface isn't just one big, flat thing, right? It's this magnificent, super complex tapestry of all these different physical features. And these features, well, geographers call them landforms. Think of them as the stage where all of our lives play out. All right, let's dive right in and take a look at these incredibly varied landscapes. We're going to focus on the three major landforms that create the very environments we all call home. So here they are, the three main building blocks of our world. You've got mountains, plateaus, and plains. And each one creates a totally different environment, shaping life for, well, everything. Plants, animals, and especially for us. So, our journey is going to start at the highest points on Earth, the majestic and, let's be honest, often challenging high mountains. This is life at the very top. We're talking places of extremes, incredible beauty, and just immense power.
So what exactly is a mountain? Well, it's defined by how dramatically it rises above everything around it. Its height, or altitude, if you want to get technical, is really the key to its whole character. It determines everything, from the local climate to whether its peak is covered in snow all year round.
And this chart really gives you a sense of the scale we're talking about. I mean, you've got giants like Mount Everest in the Himalayas, which are actually considered geologically young. And here's a wild thought. They are still growing in height, even today.
For thousands of years, this feeling of awe has inspired poets and pilgrims. The great Indian poet Kalidasa, for instance, he didn't just see rock and ice, no way. He saw the Himalayas as a living god, the lord of mountains.
Living in terrain like that, wow, it requires some serious ingenuity. People have had to adapt, right? They've done it by carving farms right into the steep slopes, that's called terrace farming, or by herding animals. And now, more recently, tourism has become a huge part of many mountain economies, everything from adventure sports to spiritual pilgrimages. But of course, this beautiful environment also comes with some serious challenges. Life in the mountains means you're constantly dealing with natural dangers like avalanches and landslides. And on top of that, there are modern pressures like the environmental damage from tourism that's not well managed.
And this really brings us to a super important point. Mountains aren't just big rocks. They are deeply, deeply woven into our cultures and spiritual lives. For Tibetans, Everest isn't just some peak you climb to say you did it. It is Chamolungma, the mother goddess of the world. A totally different perspective. Okay, so next up, let's head down from the peaks and explore the Great Plateaus. These are these vast, high-up landscapes that have a completely unique character all their own.
The difference between them is actually pretty simple, but it's also really dramatic. A mountain, as we saw, rises to a sharp peak. A plateau, on the other hand, is kind of like a giant table. It shoots up steeply from the land around it, but it's pretty flat on top.
And some of these tablelands are just immense. The Tibetan Plateau, for example, its average altitude is 4,500 meters. That's so incredibly high and vast that it's actually earned the nickname, the roof of the world. How cool is that?
Now, plateaus also tell a really important economic story. See, the same geological forces that lift them up often bring valuable minerals closer to the surface, so they're basically these vital storehouses of resources. Think about it. The East African Plateau is famous for gold and diamonds, and India's Chota Nagpur Plateau, it's sitting on huge reserves of iron and coal.
Okay. Our final stop brings us down to the fertile plains. Now, these low-lying areas might seem less dramatic than mountains or plateaus, but you could argue they're the single most important landform for humanity. This is the cradle of civilization we're talking about.
So how do these landscapes even form? It's a really simple but incredibly powerful process. Rivers start up in the mountains, and as they flow, they pick up all these tiny particles of rock, sand, and silt. We call that sediment. Then they carry all that stuff downstream, and as the river slows down on the flat plains, it just drops it all off.
And that super simple process, that's the secret to why they're so important. All that sediment that gets dropped off creates this incredibly rich, fertile soil. It makes the plains absolutely perfect for farming. In fact, these areas produce more than half of all the world's food. So it's really no surprise that the world's first great civilizations all popped up along rivers in these exact kinds of fertile lands.
The impact of this is just immense. I mean, just look at the numbers today. India's Ganga Plain is home to about 400 million people. Let that sink in. That's more than a quarter of the entire country's population, all living in one single river plain.
And that mind-boggling population density is all supported by one single mighty river system. The Ganga stretches for over 2,500 kilometers, and it's just constantly dropping off that fertile soil, replenishing the land that so many people depend on. So, there you have it. From soaring mountain peaks to these vast, flat plains, you can really see how one planet provides so many different kinds of homes, and each one shapes a totally unique way of life.
And you know what? This isn't some new idea we just came up with. Ancient Tamil poetry actually classified landscapes into 5 different types, called tines. And as you can see right here, each one, from the mountains, the Karinji, to the fertile Marudam plains, was directly linked to a specific main job or occupation. It just shows this really deep, early understanding of how the land directly shapes how you live.
And that, when you get right down to it, is the human story. Doesn't matter if it's in the mountains, on a plateau, or across a plain, heck, even in the most extreme places like scorching hot deserts and frozen continents, our ability to adapt is really what defines us.
Which kind of leaves us with one final thought. A question for you. How has the land where you live shaped your life? I mean, really think about it. Look at the landscape right outside your window. Is it hilly? Is it flat? Are you near the coast? Because the story of that land, whether you've ever thought about it before or not, is also your story.